NBA Straya, how are you going? How you going? I hope you're right. Why is that, Jim? Well, it's Monday, isn't it? March 10, which means it's a long weekend if you're in Victoria. So, yeah, I'm down the beach. Good times, great memories. How good's lawn? I'll tell you that much. Anyway, I'm your host, James Clements. This is a very brief Monday weekend winners and losers show. I just wanted to jump in, wrap up a weekend for you because it's been chaotic and I didn't want to wait until Tuesday where it's just like it's all in the rearview mirror. We've had a lot of stuff go on. So I'm just like, I want to do quick weekend winners and losers, then piss off and jump in the pool. Is that all right with everybody? I think so. So, should we just do that today? I reckon we should. Apologies if you're watching on the old YouTube. I'm just in like the spare room upstairs, which is usually the old brother-in-law's room. But either way, it is Monday, March 10. Let's get into it. Episode 1221 of NBA Straya. We're going to do a couple of other little bits. We'll give away some awards and then preview the end of the, tomorrow's games as well. Today's games are still going on. We've had a couple of crackers already, but we'll talk about that in a second. So let's get into it. NBA Straya, Monday, March 10. Let's go. No, there's no bells and whistles. We're just going to go straight through. So let's do it. The Shaq attack this weekend. Kendrick Perkins up against Chuck Barkley is always pretty fun. And then you had Stephen A. Smith versus LeBron. So let's get into this one with the daily. It's the whip around. So LeBron, this is the big story out of the weekend. He's injured. Is he, Jim? Yes, I guess, to a degree. 1 to 2 weeks with a groin strain. That's what you get for lugging that log around. There you go. Use your words, Jim. I've had a few tins this weekend, so bear with me. Interestingly enough, right, so the Lakers-Celtics game on the weekend was an absolute barn burner. Celtics smashed them in the end. Lakers come all the way back, put the fear of God back into Boston. Boston's steady and it's all good. But the big thing is obviously LeBron sort of limping around. You know, he's got that big old hog of his just hanging there, causing all sorts of havoc on International Women's Day. First of all, let me say, happy International Women's Day. Hope you get those jokes out there. But he sort of limps off, takes himself down the race, and you're like, ooh. It didn't look too painful, though. He wasn't like he was Nick Dacos out there, if you're watching the footy on the weekend. But the 1 to 2 weeks, that sounds about right. They're going to basically see how he recovers for a day or two and then have another look. But 1 to 2 weeks for LeBron, it's kind of fine, right? We'll talk about this in weekend winners and losers, but the other thing is to keep in mind, he needs 7 more games to hit the All-NBA threshold. So he's at 58, obviously. That's what makes, 65 minus 7, Jim. What's that? 58. If I had the squid here, he's down in the pool right now with old mate. The squid would be like, Dad, that's 58. So, all right, buddy. Nailed it. How good are kids? And they're just like, Dad, you want to hear a joke? It's like, yes. Always. Jokes are radical. And he's like, Dad, what's the least lonely of fruit? And I'm like, he's like, a pear. I'm like, fuck, that's pretty good. I'll pay that. He's funnier than his old man already. Anyway, but the LeBron injury happens. He's got the 7 more games to get to the 65-game threshold for All-NBA, etc. The Lakers are currently just sort of chilling out, hanging there in the, they're still the 2 seed. And why not? We'll talk about this in weekend winners and losers still. But the other thing is he got into it with Stephen A. Smith, didn't he? So Stephen A. Smith signed a $100 million contract with ESPN to stick around and cause all sorts of havoc. Sure. And Stephen A. came out and said, that wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. LeBron clearly took exception to some of the things I said. He elected to confront me while I was sitting courtside. He feels like I was sliding his son. And you're like, Jesus, Stephen A. Okay. It's probably because you were sliding his son. I don't know how you couch that as like he feels like it's because you were shitting on his son. But I want to hit this in weekend winners and losers, but we're smarter than this. What are we doing? Who cares? Anyway, Houston has a problem. Amen Thompson. He looked injured. He didn't look hurt. He looked injured. There is a very, very, very significant difference there, isn't there? But he got hurt the other day and probably injured. But they haven't released anything about that because they haven't had to. But Reed Shepherd is out for 4 weeks with an injured thumb, I think it was. It was a fractured thumb in the end, which is obviously not very good. But at the same time, like that's why the Rockets are super deep and it doesn't really matter. Like that barely touches the side of how many problems they've had over the season. But they've sort of bounced back and been very good. So, but the Amen Thompson one, that is actually one to keep an eye on because, goddamn, if he's actually injured, not just hurt, Houston has a problem. PJ Tucker signed a 10-day with the Knicks. I feel like he was always a Knick, right? In the same way that he's always been a Heat and a Raptor. Sure. The Mavs also still have no players to the point where they finished the game today against the Suns with 7 dudes because 2 of them just it's like fucking the Washington Generals at this point. 2 of them headbutted each other and knocked each other out of the game. Najee Marshall's awesome though, but anyway. And then finally, in terms of other sort of little bits and bobs, we've got an awesome array of Taron Armstrong sort of making his debut, which is very nice. He actually got out there, which is very fun. But this was in the G League, of course. So out there, he didn't do too much in that G League debut, but Taron Armstrong is now at least out there causing a little bit of havoc. And at least he's in the US, right? And that was kind of the thing that we're talking about the other day. It's like he got his work visa actually approved. So that's a weekend win for Taron Armstrong. But he got out for the Santa Cruz Warriors, aren't they? Didn't exactly light the world on fire, but still. Let's have a look and we'll see if we can find that box score. Where did it go? The G League website, I'll tell you what. Oh boy. It is an absolute dog's breakfast. He says he's trying to just find a game. That was horrible. Santa Cruz Warriors, there we go. Come on, where's your box score? Taron Armstrong. That's right, he played 1. Toscano Anderson. What do you have? 10 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 fouls. He had another day. Well, that's the second game. He actually debuted the other day and didn't even put up numbers like that. So, it's good to see he's actually out there getting into it very quickly. And because he played the Wisconsin Herd at home, I think, in their first game. That's what it was. And then he actually got out there and didn't do too much. So what did he do? Yeah, he went 0 for 2, 0 points. He had 7 assists, though, so not bad. Anyway, good to see Taron Armstrong out there in the G League at least. Hopefully he gets out there for the Warriors very soon. All right, weekend winners and losers. After a really awesome weekend of basketball where you had Cleveland keep up their insane win streak. They're up to 13 with the 1-point win over the Hornets. You had a pretty chaotic Knicks-Clippers game where the Clippers just curb stomped because the Knicks, after they played the Lakers on Friday in the game that we were watching as we tape Friday's show, Jalen Brunson hurts his foot. He's out for 1 to 2 weeks as well. That's a big bit of news, obviously. And so he's not up against the Clippers. Clippers sort of ran away with it. You had some awesome games as well, like the Chicago-Miami game where our man Josh Giddey, I'll talk about that in a second. Lakers-Boston was absolutely unreal, obviously. The hype was gnarly. And then today we got Denver OKC. So a lot of really good games. And then Phoenix versus, Phoenix versus the Nuggets the other day. Suns in 4. It was not the Suns in 4. Nikola Jokic put up a 30, 20, and 20, which is just, what are we doing? That's incredible. So the weekend winners so far, obviously Cleveland, because they just kept winning. 13 straight. They're absolutely unstoppable. At the moment, they're playing Milwaukee today. It's on telly right now. They're up 10 in the third quarter. So after the half, they're up 10. And the thing is, Barkley, I think they're weekend winners because Charles Barkley calling out ESPN actually meant that ESPN ended up talking about them, right? With that mouth breather perk going, "They don't go as far as Evan Mobley could carry them." It's like, yeah. The entire thing about the Cavs is they go as far as everybody can carry them perk. God, it's so dumb. The discourse. What are we doing? Perk. That just... The funniest thing about Perk this weekend was that they had Keenan do him on SNL, and it was the funniest shit I've ever seen. So anyway, Cavs keep winning. And there's an aspect of this where you just appreciate the fine art of winning sometimes. It was we're having a shit game against Charlotte, but we managed to win by a point because we just win. You pull out all the stops, you just get over the hump, and away you go. Very impressive by Cleveland. Absolutely unreal team. Boston. Kind of like the opposite in a degree where that was a really good win over the Lakers, right? But they still just have those 5-6 minute stretches where it all just goes completely pear-shaped, aka the world's most unalone fruit. Unlonely fruit? There you go. 5-6 minutes, it all just goes sideways and they always let teams back into these games. even if it's just a bit of a scare, the Lakers got back within, under single digits, and you're like, holy crap, are the Lakers going to do this in Boston after getting their heads kicked into the third quarter? Tatum was awesome, but they also might have just gone, hey, we know how to guard Luka Doncic pretty well. He's going to make some shots. We get it. He had 34 points, but he had 3 assists, right? And if you're sort of just stymieing his impact, then that's a big win if you're Boston. And they're like, cool, we beat his team in the finals last year. If we play the Lakers in the finals, and that Adam Silver's like, yes, please, Jimothy, that would be very fun. Lakers Celtics finals would be awesome. LeBron on his last legs, Luka. But the Celtics would feel pretty good about that. They had average Al Horford out there on the perimeter, causing all sorts of above average Al Horford. Thank you. He won a title. They were putting him in so much action, and he was up to it. And it's this is why you keep your dudes on ice for the vast majority of the season. Give them time off. Let them sort of come into these sort of big games where they can sort of show off what they can do still. It was very, very good. I enjoyed that from Al Horford. But still, those wonky stretches worry me. Because if you do that in a finals game or a playoff game, Eastern Conference finals game against Cleveland, it could just end up costing you a series, maybe. So just watch the Celtics and Joe Mullins. Hey, bro, the only way we're going to get this fixed is if we watch the town 70 more times over the next month or so, right? That checks out. OKC and SGA are big weekend winners. Geez, Jim, you're just listing off the top 3 teams in the NBA so far. Yes, because they keep winning. But the thing is, OKC have now won 7 on the trot, but they beat Denver this morning in just wildly convincing fashion. SGA is another 40-point game. I think that's either his 10th or 11th 40-plus point game this season, which is absurd. And his approach to it is probably my favorite thing, right? He's like, I love MVPs, I love All-Stars, but it don't mean a thing if you don't win. Radical. The weirdest thing about this for SGA is that all the discourse is, he's a foul hunter. He's a free throw merchant. It's have you guys never watched James Harden play? SGA is he's not exactly a prime ethical basketballer, ethical hooper. Not quite, but still, he's nowhere near Harden-esque. So just pump the brakes on that. But I think they knocked off Denver from this list, right? So they beat them today. They were on this list after the 30, 20, and 20 from Nikola Jokic. Bumped his MVP odds back up to almost close to where SGA was. You're like, geez, talk about a weekend win. You dropped 130, 20, and 20 game, the first in NBA history with assists. And yeah, you still can't be the MVP favorite. It's pretty brutal, pretty funny. But I mean, SGA drops 40 against this Nuggets team. And it was sort of indicative of oh, hang on a second. Now they've got Isaiah Hartenstein. Hello. And those bigs, you're like, ooh, OKC versus Denver. Can we get that as a Western Conference Finals? That would be awesome. But yeah, SGA is a big weekend winner because he just gave me the old clap back, right? 30, 20, and 20 for Joker. He goes, here's another 40 piece on your head. I think that's 10 or 11 games out of the season. He's played in 61 games, 62 games. So 1 in 6, less than that, games, he's getting you 40. That's incredible. SGA, weekend winner. Chicago and Josh Giddey. Geez, Jim, how do you figure this? Well, Chicago beat Miami in an awesome game the other day, and they're now not exactly cemented into the 10 spot in the East, but basically we're pouring the cement, right? The truck's here. We've got the boards out. Where it's got the tires there. All the beams and all the steel sort of rebar and stuff's in there. We're about to start pouring the slab. They are 3.5 games behind the Heat in the 9 spot, and they are 4 games clear of 11. So the Bulls are sitting pretty. But obviously, Josh Giddey hits that insane game winner to get them over the hump of Miami, and it was awesome. And he also had a triple-double. So he's had an incredible last month. So weekend winner, it's Josh Giddey, and it's Chicago. And talk about showing out at the exact right time, because remember, Josh Giddey is a restricted free agent at the end of this season, so we'll get to that in a second. His last month has been insane. He's averaged a 28-7, shooting 49.7% from the floor and 50.8% from 3. Yeah, you keep that up, but still. That's a month. It's not a small sample size. But even then, since All-Star break, he's averaging 22.4 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, over 50% from the floor, and 54.3% from 3, which prompted the question, hey, Jim, what's his next contract look like? And I'm like, oh, God, that's an amazingly good question. Because it's like a weird situation with free agency this year where you've got a bunch of dominoes still waiting to fall. Kevin Durant. What are the Suns going to do? There's only one real team with like plenty of cap space, and it's Brooklyn. And when you're a restricted free agent in a weird free agency environment, the team is kind of like, hey, go set your own market and we'll match it. Ultimately, they could just come in over the top and go, look, here's X amount that we're going to give you. Are you cool? Is another team going to give you that? And he's going to go, no. The way Chicago tend to do this, though, is like a lot of the times they've either like jumped the gun, like they did on Vooch, I want to say. I think maybe on Vooch they maybe waited. Was it Levine they jumped the gun, right? So, I don't know. Giddey, is it 3 years, 100 mil? 3 years, 4 years, 120? 3 years, 90? 3 years, 60? Like, it is such a weird range of outcomes where you look at his numbers, you look at the way that the Bulls have played with him, just with the ball, with all the minutes, just giving him the green light nonstop. And he's delivered, and they've looked awesome. He's looked great. You're like, yeah, this is what Josh Giddey does. So the question is, like, how much does Chicago value that and value him? And it's going to get very interesting this last month of the season to see if he can keep it up and really go into the offseason on a massive high. And obviously go into the play-in tournament, which is where the spotlight shines the brightest. If they can pull off a win over the 9 seed and get into the 7-8 playoff, maybe even force their way into the actual playoffs, probably not, but still, who knows what could then happen, right? Awesome times for Josh Giddey. And then finally, the weekend winners are jostling. What? Did you just try to say Ryan Gosling and screw it up, Jim? No. So jostling for the, draft lottery seeds. Toronto, Brooklyn, Utah, Washington, New Orleans, Charlotte, all the shit teams, right? So you've got basically 2 really bad teams in the West. You've got Utah and New Orleans. In the East, you've got 5. Which is incredible. And remember, Philly, they want to jump into the top 6. They want to have a worst 6 record to try to keep their pick. They're 21-41 round, right? Half a game back of them at Brooklyn, and then 1 game back of them at Toronto. These teams have lost a combined 11 straight games. Brooklyn have just Q in the rack. They've lost 7 on the trot. You got the Sixers who have lost 3 straight. And Toronto sort of just have these weird dips where they're just not very good, but then they'll just win a game at home out of nowhere, and it's kind of fun. But then Utah and New Orleans are pretty solidly in the 15-17 win range. Charlotte and Washington 13 and 15. So you've got all this draft lottery odds sort of jostling, and it's making these games absolutely insane. It's real sicko shit, but it makes their games absolutely off their head because you're they might start all their dudes or it's a G League team. And if you're trying to, as I do every single day, make picks about what's going to happen, all the winners, all this sort of stuff, which you can follow along, of course, over at Dabble. Click the link in the show description. Tell them Jim sent you, code NBA Straya. But we've got a month to go in the NBA season. Just under a quarter of the season is still left. It's not going to get any easier. They're going to keep jostling. And the winner out of this is trying to figure out, all you have to do is just be on top of the injury lists. And the winners out of this are those fringe NBA players out there just going, I'm playing for a contract. Check this out. I scored 28 points. And who are you? And it's I'm Johnny Yu Zhang. And you're sick. That's awesome. It is absolute chaos. So, yeah, keep an eye out for that. Weekend losers. Oh, losers. Dallas. They're going to miss the play-in. And Nico's going to be it's okay. We've got our draft pick. And he'll end up drafting, I don't know, a generational talent and then trade it for, Tim Hardaway Jr. or something. Offense wins championships. He'll draft another Blazer hoodie. That dude is a fucking dude who loves a Blazer hoodie. Ugh. What a weirdo. They're having the season from hell from hell. If the season from hell had a hell, that's where that season from hell is from. So they keep losing, right? And at this point, you're kind of well, shit. Kyrie's out. Spencer Dinwiddie sucks. Anthony Davis is not coming back. We've got no bigs. Our dudes are headbutting themselves to get out of the fucking game. At least we've got Najee Marshall, who looks like one of the best off-season signings in the NBA, but still, they are an absolute train wreck. It is an absolute tire fire in Dallas, and it's just the season's cooked. So pack her up, boys. You're done. The flip side of that is Phoenix are just laughing because a play-in spot is falling into their lap. They're 1.5 games back at Dallas as of they beat them today, right? So they actually have like a bit of a run here where Phoenix can go, it's fine. We made the play-in. Stay, Kevin Durant. He's not going to stay, but jeez. It makes, Champ James Jones and Matt Ishbia's job a little bit, we don't really suck. We made the play-in. They could beat the Kings as well and be in the 7-8 sort of playoff, but who knows what could happen there. Speaking of which, so Dallas stink, we get that. Phoenix almost by the two greatest words in the English language, default, are going to get the 10 spot. But another one, we talk about jostling, talk about Miami. Just as they sort of got pointed in the direction about a week ago, Bam's playing out of his head. Tyler Hero missed a couple of games, and they've lost 3 on the trot. He came back. That Bulls loss was just inexcusable. They had Hero back, and it was so tough to watch that Miami team just sort of give up the ghost down the stretch. And then you've got the Giddey just sealer. And Hero had 21, he shot 8 to 19. You've got Andrew Wiggins, you've got Bam. You shouldn't be losing to Chicago at this point. The thing is, it allowed Atlanta to jump them into 7th, and Orlando, who beat Milwaukee, which was chaos. I'll talk about them in a second. They've jumped into 9. They've jumped into 8, leaving Miami in 9, which is a disaster for Miami. Absolute disaster. They can't be in the knockout. They'll probably beat Chicago, of course, in the 9-10 if that happens, but you can't be the 9 seed if you're the Heat. Oof. You've still got a month. You'll be fine, but geez. Speaking of which, Indy, Milwaukee, and Detroit. Same sort of vibes, right? It feels weird having all of them as weekend losers, but they all lost over the weekend. And we've got Milwaukee playing against Cleveland right now. Detroit's also playing in Portland right now, which is pretty fascinating. But Detroit, look, they lost a couple of games on the weekend, but that was also very much yes, we're not a top-tier team yet. And it's no shit. Yeah, you're the 6th seed in the East because the East stinks, but you're fun, you're solid. You should beat a team like an injury-ravaged Portland, what is it, the 1990 finals or whatever. But look, they're fine with the 6th seed. Indy, Milwaukee, Indy losing both their games against Atlanta is just chaos. They didn't have Benny Mathurin and Halliburton in the first one. They got them, at least Mathurin back for yesterday's game. And Trae Young just still went, not on my watch. Check this one out, boys. And they took care of it. It was pretty chaos and pretty crazy and pretty fun. Indy did at least have Benny Mathurin back, but they did not have Halliburton back yesterday for both those games. But I don't know. It's so weird that they're really, really awesome when they're fully healthy. And if they're even a tick not healthy, Indies stink. And Milwaukee, if they lose this Cavs game, they're only down 7 now in the third quarter. But I don't know, there's just something weird going on there sometimes. They just have, talk about a lack of focus and a team that has a lack of focus. That's literally what the Bucks feel like every time you watch them. You're like, what are you doing today? And they're like, we don't know, Jim. And I'm like, okay. They curb stomped Dallas the other day to the tune of 30 points. They beat the Hawks. They beat the Mavs before that. They had that awesome win against the Nuggets, and then they lost to the fucking Magic on the weekend. It was such a weird game. It's what are you doing? This is the game that you need to sort of bounce back, take care of business, and be done with the damn thing. And it's just imagine if they had a point guard. Here goes Jim again. Anyway, tough game there, but still. Indy, Milwaukee, Detroit, that's that sort of weird, they're all 4, 5, 6 in the East right now. So they're all pretty much in that sort of swedge. That's where the 3 of those will stay. Now, that's another jostling sort of spot. But anyway. And then finally, Stephen A versus LeBron. You're both losers at this point, right? When you're getting into this sort of Stephen A looks like he's being berated by LeBron on courtside. LeBron only does that because he's trying to send a message, don't come after Bronny. At the same time, you put Bronny in this position. Right? And someone criticizes an NBA player, you take up with them personally. That's just fucking stupid. What are you, an NBA player or a dad? You're both, I get it, but you can't just go after somebody, you can't say shit about my son. It's I think you can. And I think we all come out of this just going, can we just all grow the fuck up? That was horrible. What are you doing? So anyway, next up, really quickly, let's fly through some NBA Straya awards from the weekend. Obviously, the 30, 20, and 20 for Joker was just insane. 31, 22, and 21 First time ever we've seen that. That's absurd. When you get a first-time stat line in the NBA, it's like, well, Wilt did it. It's like, well, they weren't tracking blocks back then, or like, what are we doing? But a 31, 22, 21, just when you see 30, 20, 20, like the incredible part was, what did he have? He had a triple-double to a point in the third quarter and then turned around and had another triple-double after that, right? So at 10:22 left in the third quarter, he had a triple-double. He had 13, 10, and 10. After the 10:22 mark of the third quarter, he had another triple-double. He went 18, 11, and 12 the rest of the game. That's just fucking insane. That is also our Andrew Gaze Gray Mumba Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Field of Excellence, because bloody hell. Jason Tatum's 40, 12, and 8 against the Lakers was really, really good. For a dude with absolutely zero aura, it was a great game. He looked incredible. He stepped up when they needed him to. And he looked like the best player on the court that also featured LeBron and Luka and his 31-point scoring teammate, Jaylen Brown, finals MVP. But still, Tatum crushed it. That was awesome. The question now becomes, is Juice better than Bronny James? Just saying. And SGA today with the 40, he was absolutely cooking. We had what? Just an incredible game where he just like was hitting everything. It's like, oh, he's a free throw merchant. He went to the stripe like 8 times. Let's all just pump the brakes on that. But still, his efficiency, his leadership, he was absolutely awesome. He's still my MVP for the minute. So, spud of the night, we had a 1 of 9 showing from Russell Westbrook in his old up against his old stomping ground in OKC, wasn't it? 1 of 9. He also had a pretty brutal foul that I think Michael Malone got a tech foul for. 2 of 13 and then 2 of 11 for AJ Lawson for the Hornets. That is a brutal weekend. 0 of 5 for Josh Green. Oof, rough. I think we got a 1 of 6 as well for Dante Exum. Tough one for the Aussies. We'll do the Australian Player Watch tomorrow. 2 of 12 for Spitzel Dinwiddie. 2 of 13 for Tumani Kamara. Bring, ding, 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 ding. And Deuce McBride. 4 of 16 for Scoob. Scotty Barnes. 4 of 15 for I'd like to have a beer with Duncan. And of course, cheer! Moses Moody shot 3-11. Thank you, Moses. Thank you. Jam Jamal Murray was 6 of 17 today as well. Oof, not great. Old mate, no mates is obviously Nico Harrison still. To the tune where they had 7 healthy players at the end of their game today. Nico Harrison's pissed off. Najee Marshall was the only player that got taller than 6'6". That team is cooked. He's like, oh, defense wins championships. Well, I think having players wins championships. But even then, like Devin Booker arrives in Dallas. He's like, yeah, man, you can feel it when you land. Dallas is just pissed off and hates Nico. So, they went from being a finals contender last year. They were a finals contender this year. They were in the finals last year. And now, what? You got a generational super duper star on your team. He's 25. You set up for another generation of Mavs fans, the same way that Dirk set up generations of Mavs fans. You're one of the most popular, coolest, fun sort of franchises out there. Like outside of those sort of top 4 or 5, that's where Dallas is, right? You probably go in terms of the vast overarching popularity across the NBA, where you've got someone like Boston, the Lakers, the Knicks, the Bulls. Then you hit that sort of Sixers, Dallas sort of tier, right? And it's just funny that the Sixers and Mavs are just having the years from hell. But anyway, being a finals team and then within one single month having the entire fucking thing burned to the ground because your dumb fuck GM traded a generational 25-year-old super duper star for a bag of fucking chips. Why is the old mate no mates, Jim? They're doing fucking fire Nico chants at a medieval times in Dallas. Just... if you haven't been to medieval times, that shit is next level, right? So over in the States, they'll have fucking jousting and shit. It's fucking chaos. Fire Nico chants at a medieval times. That's how few mates you have, Nico Harrison. Brutal. Pantsing of the night. What Boston were doing to LA was a bit of a pantsing, but then what LeBron did to Stephen A. Smith is the biggest pantsing of all, isn't it? So, berating a TV presenter... you don't do that in public unless you're trying to send a message. And that's exactly what LeBron did. And he pants Stephen A. Smith. Better than Bronny James? That's basically everybody. But also Jalen Williams. He got towed by his teammates, which I enjoyed a lot. He got the Jason Kidd triple-double in that game versus Portland on Saturday. He had 10, 11, and 11. That was pretty good. I love Jalen Williams. The Magic tweet of the day, we got an awesome one sent through. I think it was from Brady P. Congratulations to Detroit Pistons owner Tom Gores, President Trajan Langdon, my head coach of the year, JB Bickerstaff, All-Star Cade Cunningham, and the rest of the Pistons players on their amazing turnaround to become the 6th seed in the East. I know the entire state of Michigan is excited for the Pistons. At Detroit Pistons. What do we say? Thanks, Magic. Magic just sat down and watched a Pistons game once and was like, these guys are fucking good. That's awesome. And obviously, finally, Dickhead of the Week. This is the reigning Dickhead of the Week champion, Draymond Green, which is what the award is named, the Draymond Green Memorial Award for Dickhead of the Week. So you might remember last week, Draymond was like, yeah, man, I heard Karl Anthony Towns just fucking skip that game because he didn't want to play against Jimmy Butler, ignoring the fact that Karl Anthony Towns had played Jimmy Butler early in the season and kicked his ass. Kat was obviously at a family's friend funeral and then spoke to reporters about it this week, saying, it's been a very tough week. Meant a lot to have my teammates supporting me. Love of my family, my girl's family. We were all very close with this woman whose funeral he was at. For me, it's a little tougher. Be there for her kids that lost their mother. I know how that is. 2 boys losing their mother. So, this is fucked. And this is why Draymond is a massive fucking crying dipshit dickhead. He's like, oh, yeah, nah, I've heard that Kat fucking was just afraid of Jimmy. Meanwhile, Anthony Towns is at the fucking funeral of a close personal family friend who, fucking dies, leaves behind 2 kids. Karl Anthony Towns like, fucking hell, man. It's basically what happened to me. This is bullshit. And Draymond's out there running his mouth. What a fucking dickhead. Blow it out your ass, Draymond Green. Righto. Very quickly, let's preview Tuesday's games. If you want to see my picks for Monday, just go check them out at Dabble. If you want to go see tomorrow's picks, again, go check them out at Dabble. Bang in the code NBA Straya. Click on the link in the show description or on the socials. Go absolutely ham. If that's your thing, if it isn't, it's all good, but you can actually just track all my picks there. We've done a really, really good job over the last, week and a half, which has been really fun. Crushing it. So you can track all that there. Tomorrow, we've got a really weird slate. So the rest of today's games, where you've got Sacramento and the Clippers just tipping off. You've got Detroit, Portland. You've got Minnesota, San Antonio. Minnesota's going to win that. Cleveland, Milwaukee is still very, very close. Philly's about to beat Utah, but I don't know. It's a weird time of the season. It's probably one of my favorites where it just gets all fucking weird and you just got to stay on top of shit. That's what NBA Straya is for, don't forget. So we have our daily best multis, same game multis and stuff up there on the double. So bang in the code NBA Straya. Tell them we sent you. Click on the link in the show description on the socials and off we go. Got to keep this pirate ship afloat. Right. Tuesday, Philly at Atlanta. It's a weird game. Philly on a back-to-back. I feel like they've already come out and said, yeah, look, we're going to be monitoring minutes because a bunch of our dudes are injured and we're playing Yabu too much, which is pretty chaotic. But also, it's very fair. So there were 9-point favorites. Yeah, they're still 9-point favorites of the Hawks. We're going to go Atlanta in that one. They've been very, 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 very weird, haven't they, the Hawks? Dyson, Defensive Player of the Year, but they've just gone out and beaten a couple of teams back-to-back. When I say a couple of teams, I mean Indy. But yeah, they should be too good for Philly. You got the Nets hosting the Lakers. Now, the Nets are only 6-point underdogs here. That's because the Lakers have got Luka questionable. I think Jackson Hayes is questionable. LeBron's obviously out. We're going to go Brooklyn +6. The Lakers might pull this one out, but the Nets might make them work for it. You know D'Lo is going to go ham against his old team if he ends up playing too. Utah, Boston, that's a 17.5-point line. Utah playing right now. Boston, they're going to put them to the sword at home. I think that's a big, big, big win for the Celtics. The Jazz, look, in and out of the lineups for some of their dudes. You just got to lean with Boston at this point. We've got Washington, Toronto. This is an amazing tankathon gear game. I'm going to go Washington +6.5 because Toronto obviously don't want to be winning any of these games. You might remember the Toronto-Washington game from last week where they sat all their dudes and they won on the buzzer beater. I'm going to go Washington +6.5. It'll be a close run thing anyway. Charlotte, Miami. The Heat are 10-point favorites hosting Charlotte. I think this is where we had them in the weekend losers. I think this is where the drought breaks. We're going to go Miami -10. Charlotte are just no good. Phoenix +5 against the Grizzlies. I think they got a bit of taste of blood now, the Suns. Let's go the Suns +5. The Grizzlies are just so hard to get a handle on, get day in, day out. They actually got a They ended up winning that game, I think, today. Let's have a look. They played New Orleans, and they just snuck over the line, 107-104. Yeah, on a back-to-back, I'm probably leaning towards Phoenix. There we go. Phoenix +5. Denver, OKC, the rematch. So this is a 9-point line for Denver. Jokic was pretty good today against them, but didn't quite have enough. Michael Porter Jr. was really good. The Thunder are 9-point favorites again on a back-to-back. I think I'm going to go Denver. I think they can make it closer. They lost by 24 today, 127-103. I think they can make it a bit closer tomorrow. Dallas, San Antonio. I'm going the Mavs +4. No, I can't do it. Spurs -5.5. The Mavs have got no dudes. The Spurs are at home. We're going to go the Spurs. Poor one out for the poor Mavs fans. Warriors, Blazers. The Blazers on a back-to-back. They're playing right now at home against Detroit. They go down the road to take on the Warriors. Well, it's a 12-point line, but if Denny Avdija is not playing, you've got your young dudes. I think the Warriors are probably just a little bit too strong. The Warriors did sort of sneak by Detroit on the weekend, who are like awesome. They probably should be a bit too good for Portland, but I don't know, Portland with all their young guys, +12, it's a bit big, isn't it? Oh. I might go Portland until I see the actual players tomorrow when we look at the injury list, and we'll post our vibes. And then finally, we finish off with Knicks Sacramento. No Jalen Brunson. The Knicks, can they keep up? I don't think so. I'm going to go Sacramento +1. I think the scoring options they have are probably a little bit too tough for this Knicks team, which could be Cat, could be, a bit of Miles Bridges, Mikal Bridges. Miles Bridges went off for 46 on the weekend, but we just don't talk about that dude, do we? No, and we shouldn't. So, yeah, let's go the Kings. Should be a good one tomorrow. That's a lot of games too. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Jesus, 12. I didn't even say Houston, Orlando, or Indy, Chicago. What am I doing? Chicago +5.5 against Indy. The Bulls at the moment are playing really fun. Giddey is awesome. And Houston versus Orlando. What's that? A 1995 finals rematch. I'm going to go the Rockets. The Magic looked pretty good the other day when they beat the Bucks, but on the road again against this Rockets team, I like the Rockets a little bit too much. So there you go. That's a big slate tomorrow. We'll wrap all that up for you on NBA Straya, of course. That's what we do. Go check out all the picks over at Dabble. Use the code NBA Straya. Click on the link in the show description. Check out we basically have all the picks tracked there, so you can sort of see how we're doing, which has been pretty bloody good, just saying. So we'll be back on deck tomorrow for a full show. In the meantime, make sure you're following NBA Straya on Twitter, Facey IG, TikTok, YouTube, all the good stuff. We're all over the socials as well. Get around NFL Straya with myself and Gaz. NFL offseason is absolutely chaos right now, so we'll probably do a show about that next week. Check us a rating review on your Apple Podcast, your Spotify, YouTube, whatever app you use on your Android phone. It does help out, so go on. Running, this all on the smell of an oily rag, so help a brother out. Rate, review, star, share, whatever you got to do. Big thanks go to From Oslo for the intro and outro song, as well as House Hatch, Joshua Delarentis, Fascinated Gold Mines, Ramshackle Army, Iowa, Section I, Green, and Dozers. They're behind all the tunes you hear thrown on NBA Straya. Smash them all wherever you listen to your tunes. Remember, NBA Straya supports Australian bands. All right, that's it. We will catch you tomorrow, you dickheads, where I'm not down the beach, and we'll have all the bells and whistles. All right, we'll see you then. This is NBA Straya saying, look after yourselves, would ya? And let us go to the beach.